Okay, we are into the last chapter of Weekends with Max and his dad. And this is weekend 3, when Max has his friend Warren spending the night. Well, he was spending the night. He left and went home, and now Max has to work on his habitat for porcupine. Chapter 5. Warren barely got his beaver dam glued together before his mom came to pick him up. He left his super sticky glue behind for Max to use. "Fare thee well, Max," he said. "Fare thee well, Warren," said Max. "See you Monday." After Warren left, it was just Max and Dad in the apartment. "You can go back to bed if you want," said Max. "I got a great nap while you were on your quest," said Dad. He sat down at the breakfast bar next to Max. "Would you show me what you're working on?" Max shook his head. "I don't like it." The entire time that Warren had been gluing, Max had been arranging and rearranging his quest items, but nothing looked right. If he rested the box on the long side, the stick trees were too tall. If he set the box on the short side, the trees fit, but there was no room to build a den. "This box is too small," Max said. "The box is your problem?" asked Dad. "Max, I may not have paints or super sticky glue, but I am the king of boxes. Follow me and bring your things." Max followed Dad into his bedroom. How could he have forgotten? Dad's room was filled with boxes. Dad opened a cube-shaped box and turned it over on the bed. Blankets and sheets tumbled out. "How about this one?" asked Dad. "It's roomy." Max considered the box. "Too roomy. My habitat would be mostly sky, and I don't have that much blue paint." "Well, how about this one?" Dad opened another box. It was filled with bathroom things, like soap and aspirin bottles and extra shampoo. Dad put the things in the bathroom cupboards while Max examined the box. It was a rectangle, but it was still too big. Plus, it smelled like coconut shaving cream. Porcupine habitat should not smell like shaving cream. The third box Dad opened was very heavy. When he turned it over on the bed, pots and pans clonked out. "I didn't know I had pots and pans," said Dad. "Your grandma must have packed this one." He took the pots and pans into the kitchen. The pots and pans box was too big too. All of the boxes were too big. Dad made his really thinking hard about something sound. "Tell me more about porcupine habitat." Max explained about the forest floor and how he wanted to show a little porcupine den and lots of trees, including the one with the crooked branch for a porcupette to sleep in. I wonder. Dad left the room and came back with Friday night's pizza box. "What would you think of something like this?" He folded the lid of the box in half so that the back part closed flat like it normally would, but the front part stood straight up. "So underneath the closed part could be the den," said Max, "and I could paint a forest scene on the sticking out part." "We'll have to tape the top part open," said Dad. "Luckily, in addition to being the king of boxes, I have a side gig as the prince of packing tape." Dad held the lid in position while Max taped it in place. "Thanks," said Max, "but I have to do the rest by myself. Otherwise it won't be my habitat project." "Well, that sounds right." Dad spread packing paper on the floor and set the pizza box on top of it. "Let me know if you need help, okay?" "Okay," said Max. "You can go back to sleep if you want." "Thank you, but right now I have a habitat project of my own to finish." Max arranged and glued and taped and painted. Dad opened boxes and put the old things he found in all the new places they belonged. They both worked so hard they did not notice the sky growing darker outside. Finally, Dad clicked on the bedroom light. "Well, what do you think?" asked Dad. Max looked up from his project and around at Dad's room. It was amazing. The room was bright and clean, and there were no boxes in it, except for the one Dad was using as a nightstand. "I guess you're not the king of boxes anymore," said Max. "Guess not," said Dad. "Now I'm just a guy who has finally moved into his apartment." Max could not tell if Dad was happy about not being king anymore. His voice sounded sort of creaky, but maybe that was just his not cold. "It's a very nice habitat," said Max. Dad smiled. "Thanks, sport." "I'm not a sport. I'm a porcupine expert." Max put down his paintbrush. His porcupine habitat looked great. He had filled in some of the den with rocks and pebbles so a porcupine could feel snug and safe. The trees were all glued in place with worn super sticky glue. He had painted the toothpick sticks and glued in the kale bushes very realistically. His forest background was the best of all. Max had painted the bottom part with greens and browns and put blue sky above it. Once that was dry, he painted lots of tall brown lines, so it looked like a whole forest of trees. He had done it patiently, one line at a time, just like he had drawn the quills on the porcupine on the cover of his report. I'm going to show you a picture of his habitat. You can see the pizza box and how they folded half of the top. And then the den is under the closed part at the back. "Great job, pal," said Dad, "but where's the porcupine?" "On the bench at school," said Max. "Mom and I made it. It's really good." "Oh, your mom is very good with art projects," said Dad. "I know," said Max, "and you are very good with pizza boxes." "Speaking of which," said Dad, "I need to order another. Should we get a pizza to go with it?" "Yes," said Max, "cheese and pepperoni." Max admired his habitat again. On Monday he would add his clay porcupine, and then it would be perfect. Almost. "If I had more clay," he said, once Dad got off the phone with the pizza guy, "I'd make more porcupines." Dad was thinking again. "I don't have clay, but I do have the internet." He flipped open his laptop and searched for a recipe for air drying dough. "Bingo," said Dad. "Don't tell Grandma that the first thing I cooked with her pots and pantry supplies was porcupine clay." When the dough was ready, Max made 2 small porcupines with cut-up ukulele strings for quills. He shaped one to fit in the den and the other to rest in the crook of the tree. Dad watched the whole time. "If you were a porcupine, which do you think you'd like better? Sleeping in a den or sleeping in a tree?" asked Dad. Max thought about it. "A den would be cozy and dark and warm, and a tree would be bright and breezy, and you could see a long, long way." "I think porcupines like both," said Max. "Some days are den days and some days are tree days, but both are their habitat. Both are home." Dad put his arm around Max. "You're a good boy, Max." "I'm a young hero and a porcupine expert," said Max. "And a good boy too, I guess." "I guess," said Dad. He pulled a tissue from his pocket and blew his nose. "Are you crying, Dad?" asked Max. "Crying? Pfft," said Dad. "I just have a cold." If Max knew how to raise his eyebrow like Mrs. Maloof, he would have. "Should we clean up a little?" asked Dad. Max nodded. "I'll put the habitat in my room," he said. My room, thought Max. My room in our apartment. Just like a porcupine, he had 2 places to sleep. Both were safe. Both were good. Some days were house days and some days were apartment days, but both were home. And that is the end of Weekends with Max and His Dad by Linda Urban. And I hope you enjoyed this chapter book. It's one of my favorites. And I will be starting a new chapter book next week. Haven't decided yet which one it's going to be. I brought some home from school, so I'll have to decide which one. And I know last week I told you if you wanted to hear an accordion playing Lady of Spain that I would have a link, and I forgot to do that. So I will add that link onto the K12 library newsletter, and then if you want to, you can hear that too. But I hope you enjoyed this story. Thank you.